about 10 years ago, I became a patient. I was diagnosed with a rare...
Fun fact, I learned how to fly airplanes and helicopters when I was in the Navy. I'm also a numbers guy, and I like to track a whole bunch of other health-related metrics, which hopefully all of you will benefit from.
Welcome to MD Longevity Lab, where we're playing the long game. This is a podcast where science meets real life with expert insights, practical tips, and real-world tools to not only live longer, but live better. Our aim is to radically change the way medicine is practiced and enable individuals to age gracefully, maintaining health span and vitality well into their later years. We're your hosts, Dr. Nisha and Dr. Vikas Patel, physicians, partners in life, and parents balancing work, wellness, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Welcome to the inaugural MD Longevity Lab podcast, where we are playing the long game. We're your hosts, Dr. Vikas Patel, and I am joined by my talented and beautiful co-host, Dr. Nisha Patel. We are husband and wife. We're both physicians and parents and occasional sleep-deprived zombies.
Today, we're sharing why we started this podcast, what you can expect from this podcast. We're going to share a little bit about ourselves, our story. Spoiler alert, it was more Grey's Anatomy than you would think.
We're doctors, of course it's Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah. So Vikas, what are some of the topics we're going to be covering on this podcast?
Yeah, great question. We're diving into all the big things that impact longevity and health span. Think of it as your roadmap for aging well, without really obsessing over every single health trend going on. We're going to try and cover exercise, nutrition, sleep, hormone health, gut health, supplements, which is a big one, and mental health, among a lot of other topics. We're also going to try and talk about all of the diagnostic and laboratory testing, so we know how to exactly measure all of the metrics to really understand what's going on under the hood. And when lifestyle changes just aren't enough, we'll also explore the smart and evidence-based use of medications. Basically, we're going to try and cover everything we wish we'd learned while we were in medical school about staying healthy long-term, and hopefully share it here with you guys.
That sounds great.
So who we are, I am a board-certified emergency medicine doctor. I did my training in Chicago at Cook County Hospital, which some of you may recognize from the show ER. I was on scholarship through med school through the Navy, and I was actually a flight surgeon in the Navy. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, which my wife loves. I'm also a bit of a fitness junkie. I like fast cars, fast women, tennis.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, fast woman was my nickname in high school.
I find that hard to believe.
All the girls that were in Model UN were considered fast. We were the nerds, but we were fast.
The fast nerds?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on. I enjoy soccer, skiing, outdoors, hanging out with my wife, hanging out with our 3 awesome kids. Fun fact, I learned how to fly airplanes and helicopters when I was in the Navy. I'm also a numbers guy, and I like to track a whole bunch of other health-related metrics, which hopefully all of you will benefit from. Nisha, how about you?
So I'm a physician. I did my residency in family medicine. I really enjoy traveling, running. Both Vikas and I played tennis in high school. We still play. I really enjoy reading. I love hanging out with the kids, going on long walks with Vikas in the neighborhood. When I'm not at home, I'm usually working or working on some other project. My brain gets bored, so I usually have to keep it busy.
She has ADD.
Yes,
ADHD. Undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed, untreated.
Should we talk about what we find annoying about each other?
Sure.
Is it too early?
No. Why don't you start?
Along the lines of the ADHD, my wife, she's a pretty decent cook. She cooked Indian chicken curry, and there's 30 different spoons, all dirty spoons, all stacked, and just a puddle of curry sauce because she can't reuse a spoon.
No, I don't measure my ingredients and then I taste it. And then I don't want to double dip. So then I use a new spoon. It's just for hygiene.
That's hygiene efficiency.
Exactly.
And she also leaves every cabinet open. So any cabinet that she had to use remains open until I come home and close them all.
My answer to that is there's a cost for efficiency. You have a super efficient wife.
I close a lot of cabinet doors behind her every day. You should see how she loads a dishwasher. We should just take the door off the cabinets. I don't know. Do you want to talk about how we met?
Very romantic, Cook County Hospital ER.
It's basically just like the show ER, which is supposed to be at Cook County Hospital. I play the character of George Clooney.
You look just like him.
Yeah, same.
Actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's. I was like, oh my gosh, it's George Clooney, my senior resident.
The Indian George Clooney.
Right.
Right. And you look just like Juliana Margulies.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we met at the hospital. We actually met. She was assigned to be my junior resident on shift. And here is a fun fact.
What?
At our first date, you were an hour and a half late.
Yes.
And you showed up with some blood on your neck.
Yes.
Not your blood.
Not my blood. I just delivered a patient's baby.
One little joy.
Yeah. So anyway, we started dating. We saw each other between shifts and call. We got married. We started our attending jobs. We had 3 kids in 4 years. I don't think I would recommend that timeline. Would you?
It was, now it's fine.
Yeah.
Now it's good. It was a little rough going at first.
Yeah. But here we are. We're still married, still friends, still partners in parenting, business, and life. We both love working hard and playing harder. And now we're taking the same energy to this podcast and bringing it to you.
Yeah, I think we're definitely in the work hard, play hard camp, and which is why this podcast kind of makes sense. So why don't we go over a little bit about what we're actually going to do in the podcast?
Yeah. So first and foremost, our aim is to inform. So we want to break down the latest science so it's actually useful. I think there's plenty of podcasts out there that it makes it seem so unattainable. And I think most of us work, we have kids, we have other responsibilities. So we want to make sure that it's digestible and it's actually things that people can implement in their daily lives easily.
Yeah, maybe also get people away from using Dr. Google and give them the tidbits of information that are truly science-backed, that they're able to easily digest without getting all the fluff that an internet search might generate. I think part of this is shifting that conversation, right? We want to not just talk about how to treat illness, which is what conventional medicine is about, but also maybe about how to prevent illness and how to optimize our lives. So a few things to expect from us. We're going to try and give you pretty straight talk about what the science says about longevity, about medicine. You can find any number of influencers on TikTok or Instagram that are saying stuff, nutrition advice, exercise advice, and you don't know what it's backed by. And so science-backed strategies on what would actually fit into your real life. We want to break down research so that it's easy for you to understand, and hopefully we won't be disagreeing too much, but we do disagree from time to time on a few topics.
Yes, we're married. We disagree plenty.
Yeah. So there are going to be some, a little bit of mix of some nerdy deep dives into some of the things that I think you should understand as the audience. We'll give you some practical tips and hopefully a couple laughs along the way.
So I think something that would be important would be to share a little bit of background on our why and one of the big reasons for starting this podcast. I haven't been very public about this, but we've been physicians for 20 years now. And about 10 years ago, I became a patient. I was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer. So I was in my young 30s. I always grew up thinking I was healthy, right? I ate correctly, I exercised, and then having a diagnosis like that land in your lap definitely threw a monkey wrench in life and what you thought your life would look like. And I think wrapping our head around what does this mean for us? What does this mean for our family? I don't want to sugarcoat it. It was a really hard time for our family. We had just had our third kid. So we had 3 kids under the age of 4. That was stressful. And then add some health crisis to the mix. And that made things even more stressful.
Yeah, I think it was a big transition for us to go from just being parents and working to now dealing with this kind of pink elephant in the room and try to figure out where the silver linings were. And I think that's where Niche really has excelled over the years in figuring out, okay, we're going to focus on these things that we can control and how we're going to live the best lives that we can in the face of, this type of news. And so I'm always inspired by my wife. And part of that inspiration was figuring out how to be healthy, starting our practices together, and ultimately even this podcast. And so we're really happy to share all of the lessons that we've learned along the way that hopefully you guys can take a little bit of that knowledge and apply it to your own lives.
And I will say though, now 10 years out, while this is still something I will live with for the rest of my life, it was one of the best things that happened to me because I think that diagnosis forced me to press the reset button on our lives. I can say I'm so much more grateful for every single day. I feel like we've taken the bull by the horns when it comes to our own health.
So this was the start of a journey for us. It wasn't like we were particularly unhealthy people beforehand, but we weren't doing things in a predetermined manner such that we're actually paying attention to, well, if I have X amount of time and resources, what are the best way to allocate those things from a longevity perspective to stay healthy and to stay happy for a long period of time? And I think that's what we eventually kind of stumbled upon going through all of this, is that there is a body of literature out there that does point in the right direction of what all of us should be doing, the way that we should be living our lives. And that ultimately led to us improving our health. And some years down the line, we decided maybe we should start sharing this. And that led to us opening a clinic focused on longevity, and ultimately to this podcast, because we feel more people should actually be made aware, because these are not things that should just be in a silo and nobody has access to.
I think we have this mantra. We have it up in our clinic. It says, live long, die short. So the idea really is to live a long life, but for the years that we're alive, we want to be living and healthy and enjoying the things that we want to be doing.
I think one of the criticisms of longevity medicine is that we're just trying to get people to live longer. And I think that's a inaccurate assessment of what the goal is here. The goal is to close the gap between our health span and our lifespan. We should feel like we are functional as long as we live. And what does that really mean? Are you able to do things that you enjoy? So that's what goes into health span. And that's really, I think, the key metric that we care about more than anything in longevity medicine is, are we increasing your health span? It turns out that if we're doing all of the things that would increase your health span, you're just going to end up living longer because you're staving off the negative effects of chronic disease. But I think that's what the real goal is, that we want to close that gap between health span and lifespan.
And so if someone had a question, is it ever too late? How would you answer that?
It's never too late. I think of this kind of like the length of a runway, right? It's never too late. You can always make a better choice and also net some positive from that better choice. But the earlier you're starting, obviously the length of your runway is longer. And so small changes earlier in life are going to net a larger reward down the line. It's kind of like saving for retirement, right? You can wait until the year before you retire to save, but then you can't save a small amount. You have to save a ton for it to help you in that retirement phase. But if you start when you're 20 or 30, you can save small amounts, and there's a compounding effect over the next 30, 40, 50 years. And so it doesn't matter where you are in starting that journey, but obviously if you're starting earlier, you're going to get a bigger reward.
Yep. And we get it. This sounds kind of preachy. No one wants to live like a monk. We are not about never eating carbs, never drinking and not enjoying. We definitely enjoy ourselves. We're about making it fit into real life. So this is doable. And if we can do it while juggling work, kids, life, and barely keeping our act together, we know you guys can too.
Yeah, we're in this with you, sharing what works while balancing real life. So stick around. We'll break down what actually works, why it matters, and how to do it without feeling like this is your full-time job. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully you'll stay with us here while we are playing the long game with the MD Longevity Lab.
For now.
10-4.
Copy that.
Thank you for playing the long game with MD Longevity Lab. You can visit us at www.mdlongevitylab.com to learn more about how we can support you on your journey. Stay connected with us on social media at MD Longevity Lab for tips, updates, and behind-the-scenes insights. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you subscribed, left us a rating, or shared it with someone you know who's also playing the long game. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.